Sabah occupies the northern part of Borneo Island and is one of the 13 component states of Malaysia. The seafarers of old called it land below the wind. In August 1977, Sabah was the focus of attention when President and Mrs. Imelda Marcos of the Philippines paid a visit to the state. The Philippine President, who was in Kuala Lumpur for the historic meeting of the ASEAN heads of government, announced his decision to eliminate his country's claim to Sabah without conditions in the interest of regional peace and harmony. President Ferdinand Marcos and his wife were given a rousing welcome when they arrived on the island of Labuan for a two-day visit. The Philippine leader had earlier made a brief stopover in Kota Kinabalu after attending the second ASEAN Summit Conference in the federal capital. The Deputy Prime Minister, Dato Sri Dr. Mahathir Mohamad, and Datin Sri Dr. Siti Hasma were on hand to receive the Philippine President and Mrs. Marcos. Accompanying the President were the Chief Minister of Sabah, Dato Haris Saleh, and the Federal Minister of Primary Industries, Dato Musa Itam, who was Minister in attendance. The warm and cordial welcome extended to the distinguished visitors reflected the ties of friendship and unity among ASEAN nations. President Marcos has said the ASEAN Summit in Kuala Lumpur was a turning point for the association, where member countries really learnt the meaning of oneness and understanding. Shortly after their arrival, President and Mrs. Marcos joined the people for a community lunch at Kampung Layang Layang, a scenic fishing village 7 miles from Labuan town. Labuan is a free port and barter trade is the mainstay of the economy of this island of 20,000 people. At the Labuan Golf Club, President Marcos, accompanied by the Chief Minister and Dato Musa Hitam, met the gentlemen of the press. During the hour-long press conference, the Philippine President reiterated that his announcement over Sabah was not only legal and politically wise, but also a moral responsibility. On Filipino refugees already in Sabah, the President pledged to assist in their resettlement. The Chief Minister, Dato Haris Saleh, expressed the hope that the President's visit would lead to a greater flow of trade. He invited Filipino businessmen to invest in Sabah. On a visit to the Labuan District Hospital, Mrs. Marcos was received by Datin Rupiah Haris and Thopuan Rahima Stevens, the State Minister of Social Welfare and National Unity. She was introduced to the staff by the Director of Medical Services. The distinguished visitor was accompanied by Datin Sri Dr. Siti Hasma, wife of the Deputy Prime Minister. She later distributed gifts to the young patients. Mrs. Marcos' busy program also included visits to the Labuan Town Council and to an orchid farm. The Philippine First Lady is well known as an active social worker and patron of the arts, and she has on many occasions acted as a special representative of her husband. Mrs. Marcos has been instrumental for the establishment of the Population Center Foundation, designed to control population growth, and the setting up of the Philippine Heart Center for Asia. As Governor of Metropolitan Manila, she is engaged in the enormous task of making Manila into a model city, the City of Man, an integrated area of 4 cities and 13 municipalities where 7 million people can live and work with dignity and pride. At the Labuan Recreation Club, Mrs. Marcos, accompanied by Datin Sri Dr. Siti Hasma, received a warm welcome from members of the Women's Institute. Here she was invited to cut a cake, symbolizing the close friendship between the peoples of the two countries. Highlight of the visit was the reception at the community center in honor of the distinguished visitors. President Ferdinand Marcos and Mrs. Imelda Marcos were entertained to a cultural show by the various communities in Sabah. In his speech, President Marcos said his country and Sabah had enjoyed a long history of brotherhood and friendship. He reaffirmed his earlier statement that the Philippines was prepared to initiate the steps that would finally take the territorial dispute away from the area of contention between Malaysia and the Philippines. Under the guidance of President Marcos, the Philippines has made a major commitment to the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, ASEAN, and its basic concept of regional solidarity. The commitment is in keeping with the reshaping of Philippine foreign policy to meet the demands of what the President has termed the changing realities in Asia. As they leave for home, President and Mrs. Marcos take with them the goodwill and friendship of the Malaysian government and people.